insightful, but are you likable? You got jokes, you're the host, stand up. Are you likable?
Hello and welcome to Likeable, a show where we discuss stand-up comedy from an entry-level perspective. I am your host, David Stickle, and today I am joined by...
Well, I'm Drew Davis, your guest, your person of this episode. That is who I am.
Drew. Thank you for coming on. I'm doing Zoom episodes now because I accidentally purchased a Zoom subscription. Uh,
Now you need to justify it.
exactly.
This is an expense, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, of course. But while I have this Zoom subscription, I figured I should reach out to people that are not in New York State. And Drew, tell the people that don't know where you are.
Yeah, so I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. That's where I'm based out of. I'm a stand-up comedian here in Nashville, and that's how me and David know each other. We're both comedians in the Clean Comedy Collective, and thank goodness for Zoom because otherwise we'd never have a conversation with each other. So here we are. I also want to say I recently bought the Zoom subscription too because I started feeling it just got very self-conscious about always telling people like if I did virtual episodes for a podcast or virtual teaching, I'd be like, yeah, in 30 minutes, just log back in. It's fine. And then finally I was like, this feels cheap. I need to just so I'm new to the full subscription or whatever, pay for Zoom as well. It's not that different other than you don't have a time frame and you look more professional.
Exactly. There's no mandatory potty breaks now.
Right.
Yeah. Clean Comedy Collective is how we met.
Mhm.
Drew, are you the founder of the Clean Comedy Collective?
I am. I did start it with a few other local comics here in Nashville. It started as a Middle Tennessee based thing. We just wanted to put on comedy shows in a kind of different atmosphere, maybe a little bit less toxic, a little less competitive. Also, when we started, clean shows weren't as big of a deal here in Nashville. This was before like Nateland Productions and Zany's Labs and stuff like that. So when I moved back to Nashville, which is where I'm originally from, and I left for about 6 years, and then I came back when I went full time with comedy. I wanted to put on shows, but I didn't want to step on anyone's toes, and there wasn't any clean shows going on, and I work mostly clean, so that was the avenue. And then we realized it was scratching a niche. I'm a big fan of community. Like I never wanted to do all the work myself, so I found other people that also liked doing shows, and we kind of lumped ours together. But it I am the one who like does, for lack of better word, most of the work, and like they'll tell you like that it's my thing too. But I definitely always want to make sure people know that like there was a team of us, and it started locally, and then we went national a few months ago.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Let's dive into some of the background stuff. You've been doing comedy for how long?
I have been, I think I've been doing comedy since 2012 to 2014-ish. Yeah, long
Okay.
enough where I should know better. But yeah, so I started, and I teach comedy lessons now, and I always tell people, when you start comedy, it has to be all about having fun and having a good time. And that's the root of comedy, is just enjoying yourself. And so for me, it started as a recreational hobby. It started as an outlet to meet people outside of where I was working. I was working at a church at the time, and I was just in a very like Christian bubble. And especially from a Christian perspective, it's like you get that the Great Commission, go and make disciples. And I was like, everyone I know is like fine. So
Mhm.
comedy to me served as a great opportunity to kind of get out of my bubble a little bit, meet some different people, and then what ended up happening is it just really expanded my horizons a lot. And I found a craft I love. I found a community, and just a really cool experience. And so for most of my life, or I say most of my comedy life, so most of the 15 years or whatever, 10 years, I don't know. It's been a side hustle or a fun thing, and then over the past 3 years, it become a like an actual job. So
How did you make that transition? Because I mean, like a lot of from an entry level perspective, that
mhm.
seems so far away, right? Like I'm still
Yeah.
working like 50 hours a week and trying to, or 40 hours a week, depends. If you ask my boss, it's 50. So
It's
if I'm
50.
being honest,
That's what we said here on this podcast for legal reasons. If you work
it's
50 hours a week at least.
Exactly. It's not 30. That's definitely not.
For sure.
So like that jump seems like it's so far away from me. How did you make the jump? And then what was the feeling going from having it be like a hobby to like your primary source of income?
Right. So, and I always tell people when they're like considering it or talking about it, like, don't feel like you have to rush into going full-time comedy. There are so many pros and cons to both full-time and part-time, and it's really important to enjoy the space you're at. I think, 5, 10 years ago, I would have loved to be a full-time comedian, but I just honestly, my act wasn't good enough. And so the two things someone told me once that I find very valuable in this consideration is the question, when do you know it's time to go full time? Two of the considerations are, do you have a marketable act? Would people pay you for your act? And realistically, would you pay yourself for your act? Because I think, if I'm being honest, 5, 10 years ago, the answer would have been no. No, it's not a marketable act, even if I wanted it to be. That's the honest answer. And then the other question that's important to consideration is, are you turning down enough comedy work because of your day job? Because that's sometimes a hint that maybe it's time to like switch to part-time or leave the job entirely. And I was a youth pastor before I was a stand-up comedian, and having to be in town every Wednesday and Sunday absolutely impacted the opportunities I didn't take and stuff like that. And so around COVID, when it was lightening up, I was still doing a lot of my work virtually because that's what we had to do. So I had more time to travel, and I had kind of taken a break from comedy or made it like a real, on the side, barely doing it. And then when I got and I was kind of also in a season of transition myself. I was thinking maybe it was time for a different job. I was applying for some other places. But when I was doing this week, run of shows up in Illinois and Indiana, I finally realized, like, wow, no matter what job I get, I would rather be doing this, And so
Mhm.
and I gave myself a year. I said I gave myself a year of preparing, of planning, of asking advice when I do get to travel and do shows. And honestly, I talking to friends and family and be like, is this a good idea? And that kind of stuff. And that was really helpful for me, was to transition out of my full-time job and give myself like a year of just like putting it together and also saving money. Also, doing your best to, because there is a moment where you have to just decide, take a step of faith where you're just like, I have to leave security and go into the unknown a little bit. And what someone told me, or actually what several people told me who were full-time comedians when I was asking about it before I went full-time, the one thing that kind of kept coming up was people were like, hey, you have your good months and you have your bad months income wise. And they're like, but it always seems to work out. And over the past 3 years, I have seen that to be true. And it's one of those, you have to be okay. It's like starting a business and you're the product. You have to be okay with a year or two or more, I don't know, of not making a ton of money or making sacrifices to, and there's a lot of considerations. Like I would have never become a full-time comedian if I had a wife and kids. I think one of the gifts of being single is you're the only person you're paying for. So I was able to kind of make some sacrifices income wise, but I'll tell you, once I made that decision, once I moved back to Nashville, once I went full time, like it has been a blast. It's wonderful. It's a lot of fun. It's so rewarding. It's such a fun job, and it's like anything. You figure out the things of stand-up comedy that do feel like a job. For me, the hardest parts are I can't stand the social media, and having to be out there and try to get more followers and post content and figure out ways to stay relevant. I love watching social media as a consumer. I learned I don't much love putting all the stuff out there, but I've learned it's important to grow your brand. Um, Obviously, sometimes you make less money, and that's just part of it. No one gets into comedy because like, man, I'm going to be rich, and that's
Mhm.
okay. And then the two things that also I think people should consider is the mental health associated with entertainment and creativity type jobs. You are literally like you spend hours and hours and hours a week focusing on yourself because you're the product. And
Mhm.
sometimes that can be very bad for your mental health. And you're always wanting to compare yourself to other comedians and the opportunities they're getting that you're not getting, and wondering if everyone likes you, wondering if, there's so many questions. And so and the trick is to have a life outside of comedy. That's the trick, is to have friends and family and people and things that you do, so that, because, like I said, some months are amazing in comedy and some months are a little harder. So having something else to do during those other months is really important too. So I don't know if that answered your question. That was a lot.
Yeah.
That was like a
No, that
shotgun
was a
blast.
great answer. You covered a lot of bases there. The mental health thing is very interesting. I was just talking to a comedian yesterday, actually, and I was saying, like, because I had two like awesome shows this past weekend, right? I did a festival and a don't tell in the same day, right? And it was really
Yeah.
cool. And my ego was like so high, right? And then like the thing is like when you watch your tape back. And I, I have to tell myself, oh, the microphones are really bad, but you just don't.
Yeah, no, yeah. They had just ate something really good, and that's why they weren't laughing or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
something.
They're just not as loud as I remember them being, and
Yeah.
and like there was like a I swear it was like a 5 beat pause I took to let laughter go through the room, and then I'm watching the tape back. I'm like, that was only like 3 seconds. Like this is terrible. Yeah. So that mental health thing is like tough because you do, especially with the social media aspect of it too, because like, um
Mhm.
you want to put clips out there. You don't want to burn jokes, but you feel like pressure to put something out there. And then it's
Mhm.
like hard because I'm a numbers oriented person. So like it's hard for me to like look at followers and see that I'm not at like 10,000 or whatever. I'm not even at 2,000. And it's like, oh man, like I'm not even there, but I want to get notoriety. But it's like I actually don't want people to see my stuff right now. Anyways, I'm only a year and a half in,
Yeah.
so it is weird.
But something you're doing that's smart is like this podcast. Like this is content. And it's not content that involves your jokes. This is
Hmm.
you can develop an audience with your Likeable podcast, and then they can be like, what, let me go check out his stand up, and then they'll go and they already find you quote unquote likable. That was is that word. We're gonna see how many times we can say it in this podcast episode. And so they already go in with a good frame of reference for when they listen to. And something someone told me recently that is so important, that I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't think about earlier. But we need to stop talking about the algorithm, and like, we got to do this because the algorithm likes it. We got to do this, because that's how you
Hmm.
get numbers with the algorithm. And he said, substitute every time you talk about it, substitute the word algorithm with audience. And it's so important because it reminds you of the people behind the views and the numbers and stuff like that.
Right.
And as you generate, as you create, as you do your thing, you are building your audience. And every plus one matters.
Hmm.
So if you only get like 400 views on a reel, like that's 400 pairs of eyes. Picture that in a room. Like, goodness, if that was your don't tell room that you performed at, last weekend, it would be amazing.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder to me that, yeah, we want all those numbers. We want to go from 20 followers to 2,000 followers to 20,000. But first of all those people with all those huge numbers, they started at low numbers. They started somewhere too. So it's like, we all have our origin stories. But secondly, like, it's so important to remember that as creatives, our job isn't to just get all the people to notice us and get the biggest numbers. Our job is to do something meaningful that connects to somebody else. And it doesn't matter if you have 400 followers or if you have 4 billion. If what you're doing is connecting to those 400 people, it's making just as much of a difference as if you were connecting to 4 billion or whatever. And I think it's important to remember, because there's no guarantee. And for anyone doing social media, there's no guarantee that you'll blow up. There's not a this is how to do it and then it will absolutely work. It works if it works, and it doesn't if it doesn't. But if you always remember the individual person you're connecting with, then suddenly, even if your video is only getting 200, you're proud because you're like, I put out this video and it's connecting with someone.
Hmm.
Hello. Hello there. Interruptible. I'm interrupting you right now. Sorry to interrupt, but we're interrupting because it's the interruptible. All right, we're going to be done with that. Oh my goodness, was that not a good enough transition for this? Show dates. If you guys, I don't even know why I put these in here anymore. Nobody comes to these shows. We're plugging them anyways. All right, upcoming. Today this is going to be coming out on a Wednesday. Upcoming 11/6 Unhinged speed dating show in Albany, New York at Common Roots Brewing. I'm going to be on that with Alana Gill and Aaron Baez. Two very funny comedians. I'm excited to do that with them. I think we're going to do some extra content too. I'm not 100% sure. Depends on how I feel, honestly. It depends. It really does. On 11/7, this is going to be Union Street in Hudson. We've got some great comedians set up on that. Very exciting for that one. And you know what? It's gonna be a good time. Hopefully, people come to that one because last time, great venue, not a great turnout. So hopefully, somebody comes to the show on 11/8. Don't Tell Comedy in Highland, New York. I can say that much. I can't say anything else about the location or whatever. Hopefully people buy tickets to that as well. Not quite sure how those are doing right now. I have not checked the portal. I don't want to jinx it. On 11/14, this is very exciting. I've heard about Colonial Comedy and how exciting those are to do. With Mike Filibosian, and he finally asked me to be on that lineup, and I'm so excited. Morristown, New Jersey. This is going to be a good time. I'm super duper excited. On 11/22, we're going to do a sloop show, probably the last one of the year. Got to talk to co-producer about that one, but this is going to be our very exciting sloop show. The lineup is unbelievable. A lot of very special people dropping in for that one. And then on 11/29, we have a show at the Krog. This is going to be like our holiday kind of bash episode of the Krog comedy tour. And we've got a lot of locals, people that grew up in the area that moved to the city, and a great headliner. I'm super excited for all this. And yeah, the feedback on the podcast has been fantastic too, by the way. And if you haven't noticed, the schedule did change this month. I was supposed to do a couple more shows. Those got moved to December, so not a big deal. My Comfy Clash round 2 is in early December. I'm not even going to get into those dates right now because it's not exciting for anybody. Actually, I don't think anybody listens to this. I'm gonna try out a joke. Right now, and let me know if you find it funny. But in the comments, I guess I don't know. Here's the joke. Ready? I battle with food. It's not the best, but you know, it's not even really a battle. I'm just trying to diet myself and restrict myself. So I guess I'm like protesting food. Call it like a no wings protest. Get it? No wings. All right. Used to not hearing laughs after that one. Anyways, enjoy the rest of the show. I hope you're enjoying this episode with Drew. He is amazing. Please follow him on social medias. I'll announce those at the end. Bye.
It's interesting. Like I agree with that audience versus like algorithm thing. It's just a little 400 views and 40 likes. I do also only get 10% of the laughs in the room. Which
Here we go. Yeah. So it's true to form. And honestly, they say with well, this is all the people who talk about algorithms in an audience. They say if you're getting 10% reaction to your compared to your views, and it's actually going pretty well. So
Oh really? Oh my goodness.
yeah, that's what they say. They say, yeah, if you got a video with 400 views and you got 40 likes, and like that's good,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But they also change it every day, every week. You can Google, best time to post on a Wednesday, every Wednesday, and it's gonna change. Because I for a year and a half, I was very consistent on because that was my attitude. Like I want to grow, I want to go viral, and I was keeping up with the trends. And every single day, I would be before I posted a video, I'd wake up early and Google best time to post today on Instagram, on TikTok. I would note the difference, and it changed every day for like a year,
Yes.
a year and a half. And now I'm just, but now what I've realized, and this is another what people think about is, they say just post it whenever you want to post it and be consistent, and you'll train your audience to look for your stuff when you post it. And I'm like, okay, that works.
That's fair. Yeah, you know what? I applied that to the podcast of like they should expect something at 7 a.m. every Wednesday. So I guess that
Yeah.
kind of makes sense. I want to talk about Nashville a little bit.
Yeah.
So that is I mean you mentioned that Nate Bargatze is down there. I think I know Fiona from Kiltony is down there and
Yep.
she's blowing up. I mean she was a comedian a lot longer than
Huge.
Kiltony,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
and then
but really, it's been interesting to watch the massive just explosion of her. It's wonderful. She's delightful. Also, a fun game to play is to whenever you see a reel or picture from her stuff, is what are the creepy dudes in her comment section saying? There's
oh
some of the most
yeah.
disgusting dudes that keep up with Fiona.
I
But
don't envy
she's
female comedians for that aspect because the
yeah,
comment sections
yeah.
are so different.
It's so bad for what, but I feel like hers are the worst that I see of anyone's as far as the random people's comments. But she just got married to another Nashville-based comic, Matt Taylor. They literally like I just was seeing posts about it this week, and I think it was like this weekend that they got married. So that's kind of cool.
Do you do you like bump into them at like Zanies? Do you perform at Zanies?
I do Zanies a little bit. I'll be honest, I don't. Zanies isn't a spot where I regular a lot. I think, and it's nothing personal. I just think when you develop in comedy, like you start finding your lane pretty quickly. And it's not hard to find that you shoot all of your shots, and the one that you make that starts becoming your lane. So
Mhm.
I have gotten some work over the years at Zanies. I've done some cool shows there, but I honestly I have other rooms that I perform at, and so I always like to I kind of use myself as an example because when I first started comedy, and for easily like 8 years, my attitude was you're not a real comedian unless you're a Zanies comic in Nashville,
Mhm.
and it gave me a lot of self-esteem issues because I wasn't getting booked a ton by there. And not too long ago, I had just done a theater show in Georgia, and the next weekend I was going to be doing headlining 3 comedy clubs in Florida. And I went to a Zanies open mic, and it's a bucket spot mic, which means like you might get picked, you might not get picked. And I didn't get picked, and then I got very disheartened because someone was like also did get picked, but then like the host was like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll text him and you'll get in." And I remember going home thinking like, "Oh man, when am I going to be a real comic?" As I was packing for my Florida trip to headline 3 comedy clubs. And that was like a little come to Jesus meeting with myself where I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. That's not my lane, but I'm finding other stuff. And so, they do have great shows. A lot of my friends perform at Zanies, and I do. I mean, I got into comedy because I went to comedy shows at Zanies, and my
Mhm.
go-to food combo for their 2 item minimum, if you ever go there, in the main room, is pretzel bites and a Dr Pepper. That's what it is.
I love the Rex.
Yeah.
I think
So
from a New York perspective, that's probably got to be similar to being from the Hudson Valley like I am, and then moving
mhm.
to New York and then getting into like Comedy Cellar, probably, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, here's the hard part about comedy is if you do it long enough, it's there's never going to be a question of whether you're funny or not. You are funny. You're good. You're hustling. You're doing all the right things, and then you're in a room with your peers who you probably have known for years because you guys have grown up together in comedy, or you met each other at festivals. You've been doing it just as long, and at the end of the day, there might be like 5 of you going for the same amazing opportunity, whether it's Zanies or the Comedy Cellar or a cool festival or a TV credit or something like that. And at the end of the day, every single one of you are hilarious, and you can all do the right things and enter your submission video. And the booker is looking for something, and your
Mhm.
friend may have that something, and you may not have it, and it doesn't mean you're any less funny than them. It just means they saw that video and like that's what I'm looking for. And that's so true. Every show that has any kind of booker, there's going to be a bias. There's going to be a preference, and you know what? It's it's their show. They should book the people that they want to book. That's the second thing I tell my comedy students. The first thing is comedy is all about having fun. The second thing is like, and comedy is not fair. And as soon as you realize that, that's life, you know. Um,
Yeah.
and you don't like it until you do, until
Mhm.
there's that room that says, hey, anytime you're here, just let me know, we'll put you on the list. And then you're like, well, yeah, I deserve it, this is great, this is how it should be, you know. So like,
Yeah.
so it's just, you know, just wait your turn, you know. So
So you mentioned your class. So you teach a
mhm.
clean comedy class?
I teach comedy in general, so
Okay.
I'll do either independent lessons or what I actually prefer to do is we have another comedy club here in Nashville called Third Coast Comedy Club, and they teach classes. And every now and again, I'll do either stand up one or stand up two with them, and that's great because they find the students, and all I have to do is just show up and teach. And but it's interesting because even though I work mostly clean, even though I run the Clean Comedy Collective, I am actually just a comedian. I don't work exclusively clean. I've learned I don't have a face for crass comedy. I've learned that when I try to be gross or dirty or cuss a little bit, like, women are uncomfortable in the audience. So typically the stuff that does stick around in my act is clean.
Hmm.
But from the very beginning, comedy, I feel like for me has always been about like, I want to write authentic jokes to like my experience, to what I'm going through, to what I find is funny. And so my rule has always been like with open mics, it's like I will, whatever I write is what I'll say, you know, what I'll do, and I'll try it out. And most of the good stuff ends up being clean. But like to me, I always encourage comedians, like, you know, be your authentic voice. Like if you're naturally clean, go clean. And there's a lot of perks to that too. But if like, don't feel like you have to go clean. Like if you're naturally not clean, you probably won't be as funny if you try to stay in that lane, you know? My big thing is I don't like to be offensive with my comedy. I don't like to punch down. I don't like to make people feel less than. I don't like to make fun of certain people groups. Now, if you hear a joke and take it the wrong way and are offended by it, that's not on me. But like, I don't want people to leave my shows feeling less than. And that's my big thing. My friend calls it kind comedy, is what he calls it instead of clean. So I am not a jerk on stage, is what I try to be.
I too like to be likable on stage.
Yes. Yes.
um,
It's a good thing.
yeah, yeah. I took up the name just because that was like the first feedback I got in comedy was that like, hey man, we're gonna put you on first because you're very likable. It's a great way to
Yeah.
start the show. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I
Like,
get that too. Yeah.
yeah,
I get that too. And it's funny because as I was talking about my style and how I look, I was like, I feel like David can relate to this a lot. He probably has that same kind of vibe, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Um, and I'll tell you, never get frustrated. It's going to be hard, but never get frustrated the fact that people feel like comfortable putting you first. The more you do comedy, the more you're like, oh, but you should put me in last because I'm hilarious, you know, and I should headline or whatever. But like that first role after the host is so instrumental to a show. And I guess I have a likable face as well, where frequently I'll be on things and they're like, in fact, I have a show this Saturday in North Carolina, and I'm the only one driving in from not North Carolina. And they're like, yeah, we're gonna put you up first because we want to set the show up right. And my first thought was like, driving in from Tennessee, like maybe put me up a little bit later. But
Uh-huh.
like I get it because like when I produce shows, that first spot after the host, man, yet that you haven't we haven't built the momentum completely yet. You still need that likable, good, positive person to get the show going. And I've been on other things before where like, you know, it was like television recording. It never came out. It was Comedy Buzz. But I was so excited because it was like my first 15-minute on television kind of thing. And they're like, yeah, we're gonna put you up first because we want to set the show up right. I'm like, of course you are. But I'm learning the producing side of it has taught me that like that's an important role, and we need good comics for that too. So
Yeah, and it also
I just
just
want to
like it.
encourage you that because the longer you do it, there. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, it just seems like it also just gets you a lot of work, you know? Because I mean,
Oh,
those people that do like tend to produce shows or like headline a lot, like they want their shows to start out that way, because they care about the whole thing, and maybe the middle act is a little bit like maybe just as strong as you are, but they're a little bit
mhm.
more controversial, or their
Yeah.
style is different, and then
That, yeah, the
you
style's
know,
different.
yeah,
I have I have I have a couple friends that I book on shows, and they're actually a married couple, and I learned that one of them is a good open. Like he's bubbly and like kind of positive, and she is absolutely hysterical. It's just got a unique, different style that I learned does not work as like
Mhm.
the first comic after the host. And so
Yeah.
I always tell them like, look, it's nothing personal, but I've just learned through experience. I'm going to put the husband up first and then the wife, and I'm like, it's not nothing biblical about it, or that's just what I'm doing. So
Yeah. There's a pair of comedy they actually do a podcast called Velvet Sugar, but it's comedians up here. The name is David Beckles and Alex Collar. And Alex always seems to go after David. And I would say that like I don't know if David ever feels like slighted by that, but like David just gives a lot more energy and a lot more silliness before
right.
Alex goes on, and then Alex has like more of like a dad energy. And I would say as far as comedic
Mhm.
levels from my entertainment perspective, both equal. I like having David go first because it like really brings up the room a lot energy wise, and then Alex kind
Absolutely.
of mellows it out and like kind of brings you
Yeah.
back down and into jokes and stuff. So it's funny, and I hope they don't hear that and feel slighted at all. But
No, I bet you that, I bet you they're aware of it. I bet you most comedy couples are aware of, and like if and as soon I mean anyone who produces a show knows that the order of comics is sometimes just as important as who you're booking. So
Mhm. Yeah, it's about setting up the show, I think, is very important.
mhm.
One thing I'm curious about, and we don't have to just talk about clean comedy, but I mean it's just kind of how we met.
Mhm. Yeah.
But like I've been having this like maybe like definition issue with clean comedy,
Mhm.
because like if you look up like clean comedy, like squeaky clean, like it's no like innuendos, no cuss words, no references to religion in a lot of them, and like no politics at all.
Yeah.
um and then like I've been booked on some clean shows, actually thanks to your certification. Shout out.
Oh, that's cool. Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
And
that. I
then
love watching all the comedians meet each other and then find each other and book each other. That's been one of my favorite things to see.
Yeah, I got booked on a show because I did a show at Woodstock, right? And it was like their
Yeah.
anniversary thing, and it was like it was pretty cool. It was really cool. But I met somebody there, and then like a week later he called me and he was like, "Hey, can you do a show? Can you do 10 minutes?" And he goes, "I need it to be clean." So then we had a discussion about what his definition of clean was, because it was in the back of a diner in North Jersey. So like it's like, okay, diner,
Right.
everybody's
So they were all
older.
nuns, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it's North Jersey, so what's clean to them? So so that was like the conversation that we had. And he said innuendos were fine, and like I kind of got towards the end of the bit, and I was debating on whether I want to do this, but I kind of read the room, and I have this bit
Mhm.
about where I'm in a coffee shop, and I talked to some people and religion came up, and
Mhm.
it's a very religious coffee shop, and half of the people did not believe that dinosaurs existed. And that was like a conversation that happened, and like so I'm like sharing it with these people, and like the room thought it was funny because it was a situation that I was in. But like what do you think about like how would you define clean, or like?
Yeah. So I think also what the one of the important things you said in this conversation that all comics should learn from and do is when you're booked at a clean show, you ask the booker, you ask the other, whoever's running the room what they mean is clean, because like you said, it's different for everybody. And that's kind of the first thing is, clean by its definition, clean comedy is non-offensive comedy. But therein lies the challenge, because just like humor is subjective, so is offense. Some people are
Mhm.
very bothered by cuss words. Some people don't care about cuss words, but they don't want you to, talk about politics or religion. Or some people don't want you to talk, down to certain people groups or whatever. Like some people don't want you to even talk. I mean, like we have shows that they're like, please just don't. We have shows that are like, don't make fun of LGBTQ plus communities, and then we have other shows that it's like, don't even mention LGBTQ plus things at all. And when you're working with the room, you kind of have to, the venue, you kind of have to work with them to figure out best definition for clean. So I've categorized it down to 3 different types. There's club clean, which is basically don't cuss. That's kind of the main rule. And then even that, they're like, or cuss a little bit, but like don't do the big ones. There's family friendly clean, which is what a lot of the Clean Comedy Collective shows do. Whenever I book a clean show, this is what I ask them to do, which is you still don't cuss, and then you don't do jokes about like sex or sexual stuff. And then you don't do jokes that like glorify like substance abuse or drugs or like drinking, getting drunk, and I like kind of like the no drugs, sex, and rock and roll kind of attitude. And so that's usually where I try to stick with my clean shows. With when I book a show, is don't cuss, don't do jokes that are about like sex and sexual stuff. Although I do tell them innuendos are okay. And then don't do jokes that glorify substance abuse. But then I always add a phrase that you already used, which is, but read the room. Like you can tell with rooms, and if not, it's a learning moment. I've been plenty of times over the years where I've been in a clean show and I did a new joke, and it was answered with silence. I was like, okay, so that's not a good joke for a clean room. Got it. Won't do it in a similar room. And then the last kind of clean that you'll find is what people call either squeaky clean or they'll call church clean, like when you work at a church, and they don't even want like hints of dirtiness in it. Right, like they like no innuendos, no sex or sexual jokes, no cussing, no drug jokes. Like don't even like the people in those rooms are wanting to kind of live in a world where like sex doesn't exist, live in a world where drugs doesn't exist, live in a world where offensiveness in general doesn't exist. And even though sometimes I'm like, those are less fun rooms to tell jokes, I appreciate the dilemma because if you go do a church show, you're asking a lot from your audience. Your audience is sitting next to people that they're wondering, does that person think I'm holy? Is that my pastor's over there? What's he gonna think if I laugh at this joke or whatever? And then they look over to the pastor's laughing the loudest or whatever. But like, so like that's that squeaky clean version. That's like the most clean. But honestly, sometimes those are really solid gigs to get. So I think, and I always tell people, even if you don't want to be a clean comedian, you should get at least 10 to 15 minutes of solid, at least family friendly, clean material, because that's a great way to get into hosting gigs. Because a lot of clubs, a lot of venues, they want their hosts to work clean because they kind of leave the general idea is when you're doing a comedy club show, like the host is the cleanest. And then like the headliner can do the most crowd work and be as dirty as they want. The feature's kind of in the middle of it all. But like that, at least for me, that's how I got a lot of my starting work in comedy clubs, which then led to me working with headliners and traveling with them and stuff like that, because I met them at the comedy clubs I hosted. But people knew I was a reliable, safe host with clean material. And so I would tell people, like, if you want to do the comedy club route, that is a way to do it, is work clean and get booked as a host.
Yeah, I do a lot of hosting at our local comedy club, Laugh It Up in Poughkeepsie, and we've been lucky enough to have some great headliners up there. We just last year we had Louis C.K. was prepping for his hour that he's on the road with now. He did like 11 shows in a couple months. It was really cool. But like it was like I gotten very comfortable there because I was probably hosting there like maybe once a month, and I got really comfortable there. And then this one headliner come in, I won't say his name, but he came in and he kind of hit me in the feature act of this. He goes, what's dirty in your act? And then we kind of mentioned it, and he's like, don't say that. And I'm like, okay, there's 5 minutes of my stuff gone. And then he's like, no crowd work. And I'm like, okay. So and this is like 15 minutes before the show.
The headliners will have specific things that they're looking for when they and that the headliner that I ended up working a lot with over the past year, like her rules were like, no crowd work and keep it clean. And she would listen, if you did like 4 shows on a weekend or whatever, she would listen that first show to your act. And if you had something similar to something that she did, she would ask you in between shows, don't do that bit. I haven't come up with a lot of things that I don't want the headliners to do, or the hosts or features to do yet much. My big thing is like, I want the host to do their time when they're doing their host set, and don't do time in between the next act and the special. Because like I hate and I always told myself, because I hosted for a while at a lot of C-list clubs where I had to deal with a lot of high maintenance headliners, and so I just told myself I was never going to be a high maintenance headliner. But I do finally have like a couple things that like I do ask them now, and I feel kind of like I'm a high maintenance headliner. But like this one, so it's just when the feature typically has more experience and is a more defined act than the host. It's not always the case, but typically. And so they're ending on their best, amazing joke. And the crowd is just primed for the headliner because this joke just killed. It always kills. It's their favorite, best joke. And then you got this new 2 weeks into comedy host getting back up there. And 30 minutes ago, the feature did a joke about referencing Teletubbies, and it made the host think of this funny thing about Teletubbies he's never said in public. And he's like, well, this is perfect. I'm going to bring up my killer Teletubbies material that I just made up. And then they do it, and it just kills all the energy because nobody laughs. And then they're like, okay, time to bring your headliner up. And it's and like as a headliner, you can dig out of that hole. You have the skill set too, but it's like, I don't want to. Like, so now I ask, that's like my one thing with hosts is like, look, can you just do all of your time at the very beginning? And then in between acts, just bring us up,
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I actually had a headliner once that said to me as a host, he's like, after the feature act, do 5 minutes, but when you get up there, tell people to go use the bathroom right away. And
yeah, so you were the bathroom buffer.
yeah, I'm like, I'm okay with this, but like, they're not gonna use the bathroom in 5 minutes. It's take a little bit longer. And like nobody knew what was going on, so they just stayed seated anyways. It was a little wonky, but yeah. It's
That's
like kind of
interesting. But the truth is like you should be able to follow whatever's going on either headliner. Because some headliners will tell their features, don't do these jokes, they do big of laughs or whatever. And I'm not okay with that. Like if I'm funnier than you as a feature, then we should switch roles and paychecks. Like you can do better, like,
yeah. You said you have some people that help you with the Clean Comedy Collective. Do you want to give them like a shout out or anything like that?
Yeah, sure. So the kind of the two people that helped found it, and I've had a few others over the years that have been, but the two ones right now that are primary are Sean T. Hughes, and I believe his Instagram handle is Balloon Guy Comedy. He's a balloon artist by day and a comedian by night, and he incorporates
That's amazing.
his act. And then Bryn Daniels is another comedian that does a lot with the leadership of the Clean Comedy Collective. She also produces a show in Middle Tennessee at Spring Hill. At a coffee place, and it's a lot of fun. And she actually occasionally is able to come out and feature with me. We did when I went to those Florida shows. She was my feature, and that was really cool. So, this is incredibly unrelated, but I'm going to have lunch with them tomorrow, and I'm pretty excited about it. So anyway, but so in case people are wondering, what's Drew's lunch plans happening tomorrow? Burger Republic with Brendan John. But they help out a lot. But the cool part is about the Clean Comedy Collective is it is truly a collaboration of comedians. It's basically just a community. It's a community of people. Some of them feel like they're the only clean comic in their city or whatever, so they enjoy connecting with people online from other places. But like if you want to start a show and put it under the Clean Comedy Collective umbrella, you can do that. If you want to work with the comedians, you can do it. It's just I was a youth pastor before I was a comedian, so I know the importance of community. And sometimes in comedy you just feel like you're all on an island by yourself. It's by its nature. I mean, when we're on stage, it's just us, and then the audience. So like it's a very solitary activity, but I think what we're doing really good with the Clean Comedy Collective is building a community. So there's a lot of people that produce shows and do shows and it's a cool group. So
yeah, it's been pretty cool. I didn't when I started comedy, I mean, I started off like fairly dirty. I think that's kind of natural, especially for like younger dudes. But like I had some advice from somebody I look up to, and they said try clean, and then they actually recommended a
Mhm.
podcast called Hot Breath. Have you heard of Hot Breath?
Yeah, Joel Byers is Joel's a comedy friend, and he runs that podcast, I believe. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I've been listening to Hot Breath for a long time. And like, the talk about writing clean and like doing clean, I'm like, okay, so and like
Mhm.
I wanted the challenge of doing it. And I just didn't want to like miss an opportunity because I couldn't do it clean.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah.
It's interesting. I remember years ago, I was doing an open mic in LA. I was visiting there, and so I did, and it was at like the Comedy Factory, and it was interesting. The way it worked was like, each open mic, you were also kind of auditioning for a role in there to potentially perform on their show. Like they had a system, and it was like you would get callbacks to keep auditioning until they were like, okay, we'll put you on, a weekend or whatever. But from the very first time, the rules is okay for this open mic, you have to work clean, no cussing, otherwise you don't move on to the second round. And it was astonishing to me how many comedians accidentally cussed in their act or accidentally weren't clean. um and it was like, I mean, some of them didn't care, they're like, I'm just here to work on this material, I don't care about getting booked or whatever. But some of them were like, you could tell they were trying to, and then it slipped, and that was kind of eye-opening for me. I was like, I never want to be like, um controlled by my own language, like I
Mm,
want to be in control. And I think that's the part about working clean is you're coloring in the lines, you're choosing the words for your jokes, you're choosing uh what and how to say, and you're not letting your jokes run you. And and it's interesting because a lot of comedians are like, I've actually had some hilarious people I've wanted to book on shows before because I think I listen to their material and I'm like, I think you could be clean. I think if you took out certain things or rephrase things, you could work on this show. And I've had a few like, and good for them for knowing this ahead of time. But they were like, I don't think I could work clean because I'd get drunk and then who knows what else, who knows what I'm gonna say afterwards, and I don't want to mess up your show or whatever. And like I appreciate the foresight of them doing that, but also it's like, man, turning down work because you can't cuss, you know.
hmm I I can do clean, like, and like my challenge is cussing, right? And like, cause I grew up,
Mhm.
blue collar family, all that kind of stuff. And like, but like, it's just very natural for us to curse,
Yeah.
in the house. But like, uh, I can I can cognitively be like, all right, I'm not cussing right now. This is my work
Mhm.
voice, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good
but
way to do
like,
it.
yeah, but when I'm on stage, I'm thinking about like, oh, remember you're doing a work voice right now, and I just start sweating. So
Yeah.
I look way less comfortable than I am, you know?
Right. They're like, is he having a heart attack? Like, is he
Yeah, yeah.
okay? So,
Well, that's me most of
well,
the
but
time.
it's, but it's like the truth is when we're on stage, we have a character. You have your stage character, and you get to, maybe your stage character during a clean show is a guy who doesn't cuss, like, and
hmm
that's part of it. I'll be honest, even when you're off stage as a comedian, you have a stage character. The real life Drew Davis sits at home and plays video games and watches TVs and eats pints of ice creams on the reg. And that is the most boring, uninteresting person. And I've learned nobody wants to meet him after a comedy show. You have to have that like exuberance. So like I think totally okay. And in like other parts of our world, we call it being professional. We call, your work voice. You're like whatever. So it makes sense as a comedian that we have, when we're up on stage, we realize this is the kind of stuff I'm going to do when I'm on stage, or this is the kind of stuff I'm not going to do. And it just, at the end of the day, it it you get to decide that about you. Like if you don't want to be that kind of comedian, you don't. If it feels icky, or you don't have to do it. But the more you do comedy, the more you'll be like, no, this is who I am on stage.
Yeah, it is a challenge. Like I can do it, but it is like, even when I sent my submission tape to you,
Mhm.
I open with a curse word essentially.
Yeah.
I say, I have a friend that's a piece of shit, and
Mhm.
I sent in the thing. I was like, I can change it to crap.
Yeah, what's so funny? I remember your submission tape, and I remember because and I remember really liking your stuff and liking your because and when I look at it, it's interesting. I hope other comedy bookers and people that run groups does this, but like I tell people all the time, like the submission tape is part of what I look at, but it's not the whole thing. Like I really, I'm listening for laughs. I'm listening for like obviously if it's not, it's got to be clean. Like one cuss word you can look like once for me like once I get to 3 cuss words or depending on the content of the joke, that's when I feel like okay, this tape isn't going anywhere. But like I also look for the professionalism of the comedian. Like are they working? What are they doing? Like I'll check their social media. I'll check their website. I'll see what they have going on. And then the other thing, and it's just hard because you can't really quantify it. But like I look like, are they not a jerk? Are they not a douchebag? Like I look at their bios, I look at, things that they're posting. And like I can't explain it, but like you can tell. You can tell when they're nice people when you're looking at people's
100%.
stuff. And like sometimes the video, like I'll give the video some leniency if I can see that the other two things are going really well. But like it's definitely and I remember I call you were among, I call it the original 150 because I grew up in the 90s but like you're generation one. You were like one of the first among the first group that we added to the collective. But I just remember thinking like your stuff was funny, and I also remember you seemed very you seemed very likable. And I was just like this is a guy that would be good for our community, and I think that's really important. And I can't say that all bookers look that in depth into like people's stuff, but I do think it's important for comedians to realize that like you're more than just your submission video, and hopefully when people consider you, they're looking at all the other aspects of you as well.
100%. So I to give myself more stage time, I started producing a lot of shows because I really value just like time in front of crowd versus open mic because it's very hard to tell. But like we started doing the Hudson Valley Don't Tell, and that like actually just more recently that has gotten me like a lot of people sending me submission tapes and like like a hey, this is my bio and all that kind of stuff. And it's interesting to think of like because I kind of do like the whole run around of like seeing who I'm dealing with kind of thing. And I definitely go into what kind of reels they're making because their set might be very good and I'll watch their set for sure. And like sometimes if I get a weird vibe from their set, based off of like how they interact with the crowd or like so, and I'm not experienced enough to be like the final judge of this, so I do send it to the other producers.
Yeah, that's smart. That's wonderful that you have a group to work with. I think that makes it a lot
Yeah,
easier.
it's
That's
important.
funny though. So you check out their reels for like I usually like it's a pet peeve of mine when someone says here's my 1 minute clip, or here's my 30-second, here's a few 30-second reels. I got to see the whole set. I gotta see. Oh, and I hate to say it, but when people are like, yeah, I was on Kill Tony, here's my minute. That's why you should book me for your 20-minute spot. I'm like, this isn't enough
Yeah.
for me to.
Well, that's probably more common down south actually, because it's a hike for us to get to Austin.
Yeah.
But like I look at their like man on the street stuff, or when they're walking down the street and talking at their phone and using that for content,
Yeah.
like that I feel like gives me a better
Lets you get to
idea
know.
of who they
Yeah.
are, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good point.
yeah, so I mean that's kind of what I look for on their like reels and stuff like that. But also just like if you're gonna message me and ask me to put you on a show, but you don't follow me, like you know what I mean? Like I also think that's a
Yeah.
weird thing. That's like a courtesy
Yeah.
thing, you know?
Well, and so many times comedians have this incredible ego and self-conscious or self-confidence that is not yet earned. I think there gets to a point where like if you have had all these credits and you've done all these things and you reach out to me and you're not following me, yeah, I'll book you on my show because I know that'll be good for my show. I know you'll be good. But when you've done 3 open mics and you're telling me, yeah, I don't record my set because I'm trying to protect my hour, or like, yeah, I'm gonna need you to pay me 10% of the ticket sales because I'm like, dude, you're an open mic comic. Like I'm like we comedy is part of it is having delusion to continuing to keep doing it, you have to be a little delusional to be like, this isn't going so bad. That's a Mike Birbiglia thing he says in his podcast, is like, you have to be like, yeah, this is fine. But also part of it's objectivity. Part of it is being like, oh, here's where I need to get better. Here's where I'm at in the food chain. Here, and so a lot of comedians have the ego before they have the act. And you can tell that when they shoot you those messages. And so the weirdest is when they don't send you tapes. They're like, hey, I'm coming to town, can I be on your show? And I'm like, can you send me a video? And then the weirdest is when they message the Clean Comedy Collective Instagram and they're like, yeah, I want to be on your show. I'm like, cool, can you send me a tape? They're like, yeah. And then like they send me a dirty, like a not clean tape. And I'm like, do you have a clean one? And like, why the hell do I need to be clean? I'm like, you're literally messaging the Clean Comedy Collective about being on a clean comedy show. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they're so new that they don't understand what clean is,
Absolutely. Maybe. That's a good way to look at it. I bet you that's the case. So
I was asked once if I work blue, and I didn't know that was that was a word for dirty.
Yeah.
And I
so you're just like, what? I'll wear whatever color you want.
I was like, I can do redneck jokes if you want. Like,
that's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, because you were thinking like the blue collar comedy tour.
Yeah.
That is a good point. Like, you don't know until you know. And now that we say that out loud, I remember the very first time I ever did an open mic. I was in Lexington, Kentucky, and I signed up for their comedy club there, open mic. And so they send you the rules ahead of time. And I'd never done comedy ever. And also, like, I was a 23, 24-year-old youth pastor, and I'm pretty sheltered. And so they told you, 5 minutes, and then you get the light. And then the other things that interrupt too, is like, you can't use the N-word or the C-word. I remember thinking, like, well, I know what the N-word is. Do they mean like crap? Can I not say crap? Is that the word that I'm supposed to not say? That seems odd. And then as soon as I got to the open mic, I was like, oh no, that's the C word that I forgot existed. Because sure enough, it's a good thing they said that rule, because people still said it. And I was like, that's
wow.
Yeah.
That's also, like upstate versus like like saying you can't say the N-word is also like
Oh my gosh. And you know what? When I first started, I heard that in so many rooms. And I thought to myself, is this really something we need to say? And to quote Southern people, boy howdy, have I heard
from black comics or white comics?
Okay. So I mean, from white comics. Black comics can say it, and you especially get like Memphis or whatever, like you'll hear it a lot. But like, no, it's from white comics. And you're like, wow, why would you say that out loud? And sure enough, the most awkward was one time. I was in a room, and thank God that like people knew me in that room, so it wasn't like my first time there. But so it was in West Tennessee. The room was in Memphis, Tennessee. And it was a predominantly all black room. And then like comics from like Arkansas or nearby came by that were all black as well. And then this guy from kind of a middle of nowhere town near Memphis, Jackson, Tennessee, showed up. And he had seen me at the Jackson the club in Jackson, and he wanted to try comedy after seeing my act. Like, and this is the first time this had ever happened to me. So I was like, yeah, look at me inspiring the next generation of comedians. Like, I was like bragging about, I know, in hindsight, is a problem, but I was like bragging about it to my comic friends, like who were black. I was like, yeah, look at me, just molding minds. And this guy get up, and I am not exaggerating when I said he said the N-word 4 times before the host pulled him off the stage. Also should be noted, he was white. And he gets off the stage, and he's like trembling, because you could just, the anger in the room was palpable. And then he sits down next to me, and he's like, I just don't understand what went wrong. And I'm just like, why is this on me? And like I said, like, I'm not gonna explain racism to like a guy who's probably 5-10 years older than me. But and like I said, thank goodness, because the guys from out of town were looking at me like, oh, is he with them too? And thank goodness some of the other comics are, no, he's the different different white persons. Like there are not,
Yeah.
but,
There are different groups of whites. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
so yeah, so but
It's
I'll never forget that.
it's amazing the social differences. Like I don't think it's really ever acceptable for a white person to say that word, but
Mhm. Right.
like I lived in Fort Wayne, Indiana
Yeah.
for a couple months one time, and it was very religious, and I didn't grow up with religion, and it was like kind of being forced on me there, so I had to get out. Um but like I remember like one of those cultural moments. I was quoting a Mad TV sketch where the character goes, "Damn, the back of your head is ridiculous," you know? And I was saying damn
Yeah.
repeatedly, and they're like, "Why are you cursing in the house?" And I was like, "Wow, this is a culture shock moment."
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, and that's the kind of interesting and fun part about doing comedy in different parts of the country is you learn, well, in addition to learning what's acceptable, in one places and not, you also learn like what's funny in certain areas.
Mhm.
And then it becomes part of the skill and challenge of doing comedy is learning to change the wording of your jokes to make them work, up north instead of down south.
Mhm.
And sometimes, and you also learn sometimes things are universally funny, usually our shared experiences of growing up with younger siblings or parents that do this or like, and this, like that's kind of translates everywhere. But like one thing I learned is because I do live in the South, I live in the Bible Belt. I am a Christian, and I do jokes about Christian culture a lot, where I make fun of Christian culture. And so like down south, I have a lot of jokes where I make fun of Chick-fil-A, which the running joke in the South is like Chick-fil-A is like God's chicken, like that's where all the Christians go and stuff like that. But like I remember, I did some shows in Vermont last year, the first time I'd ever been that far north in Vermont, and I quickly learned after my first night, making fun of Chick-fil-A and how much Christians love Chick-fil-A. They had no idea that was a thing. So what I did was I changed the wording where I was making fun of Southerners and how much they love Chick-fil-A. And
Okay.
I exchanged a stereotype. Instead of talking about Christians, I talked about Southerners, and suddenly that was a lot more funny to the Vermont people. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's always nice when you have more than one show in an area, because your first show can be where you like feel out the audience. So it was a little awkward when you're in a new area and you only have that one show that night, and you're like, well, we'll see, So
Yeah. That after show feeling is like interesting to digest because having another show to kind of like right the ship is
yeah,
very important. But like, yeah, there's a very good chance if you don't have that second show, you spend the drive or the flight back being like, I guess I just don't work up there.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's fun to once you get more comfortable with audiences, and once you have longer routines where you can do this, like more time on stage where you can give your like I'll in the middle of my act, like part of my act will be like me trying to figure it out with the audience. Like, oh, do you guys not have that here? Do you guys care? Is that not something I
Mhm.
think in Vermont at one point I was like because I had jokes with like clap or cheer if you're a Christian, because then I had something to make fun of. And like the room went quiet. Like there wasn't a single Christian in the room. And then I was like, is there? I was like, and then I think I was like, do we have Christians in Vermont? And like someone in the audience said, like, no, we don't. And so like
Yeah.
that became like a running joke, because like I adjusted my material, but also I kind of told them why I was adjusting it and stuff like that. So um it's, I don't know, comedy is organic. We're doing comedy with the audience. We're not doing it at the audience. And I think when you first start, all you have is your jokes. All you have is your 10 minutes. If someone says, um, it is like that person who say like, well, don't do these jokes. And you're like, I only have these jokes, maybe like at some point.
Uh-huh.
It's like, well, like, what else am I going to do? So, and yeah, and it's funny because one of the shows I produce, my mom lives nearby, and she comes, and so she's been enjoying like learning more about comedians and watching comics over the years as we've had them come to that show. And sometimes she'll be like, that person like should have not done that material because that wasn't good for this room or whatever. I'm like, that person has been doing comedy for 2 months. That's all the material they have. Like that was they gave us the best they had.
Yeah. That's actually a funny point. Yeah, sometimes it's all they have, but it's like but also that outsider perspective of being like sometimes like the audience can read the room better than the comic can because of how new they are. But also, like, I remember being a brand new comic, wasn't that long ago, being a brand new comic, and you're just trying to remember your lines, and you're not so
Right.
much having that interaction with the crowd. And I think that's a big
Yeah.
milestone, is like getting to the point where you're not doing crowd work, but you're also just like um, responding to, oh, they laughed harder over here, and
Yeah.
maybe I should look at the whole room, or like, am I actually engaging with these people?
Yeah, there's and is so hard that engaging with the audience is, and I don't mean crowd work, I mean like literally connecting with the audience through your jokes and your demeanor and with all this. That is something I don't think you can teach in any stand-up comedy class. I certainly haven't figured out how to teach it yet. That's why, like with my classes, I tell them the best thing you can do is just go out and do it. Get those reps
Mhm.
in, go to the different rooms, go try all your jokes everywhere and just kind of see and get better that way, because the more experience you have on stage, the more you develop that, organicness of comedy. And but it's not something that I think you either have it or you don't. And if you don't, I do think it's possible to develop it, but it's not something that you can like read a book and then be like, oh, that's how I do it.
hmm I like nonverbal cues when I'm like talking to somebody. I do find that I have a harder time in a room where the spotlight is really bright, not because it's like, oh my God, this is jarring. It's because like I'm used to seeing people's faces, and even if I'm going into, because I do like a storytelling style, like even
Yeah.
if I'm on a longer story, a longer form joke, like I want to see them smiling to see that they're still engaged, right? And like
Absolutely.
the silhouettes with the spotlight behind them,
Yeah.
it's nice because you can't see that they're disappointed in you.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. You just so what you do is you just assume they all love you, and then you have the
yeah,
confidence of that you're performing in front of a room that they all love you, and
yeah.
you can't see their face. It's awkward when you're in audiences where, and I don't want. I feel bad because it's predominantly the older audiences. It's probably not all older audiences, but like it feels like it's usually the older crowd that this is true for. Um, where like they're enjoying it, but they're not like loud laughers. And they also,
Mhm.
their faces don't really suggest that they're enjoying it. So you perform and you're like, I don't think I'm doing well. I don't think they're liking this at all. This is awkward. And then at the end of the show, they're coming up to you like, that was amazing. That was so good. You're so funny. And you're like, could you have told your face? Because like that was not the message I was getting, like at all.
Yeah.
but and so I think you learn after a good routine, or after a routine I should say, you learn there's a lot of metrics to measure whether it was a successful routine or not. But I think, I mean, without fail, if they're laughing a lot, that's the greatest metric. But
Mhm.
sometimes you learn that's not the only metric. Sometimes they're not like very loud laughers, so you don't get that. But they'll come up to you after the show, they'll talk to you, they'll buy your merch, they'll follow you on social media. And I think at that show, if they weren't laughing a lot, they were doing all those other things, you could still go home and think, I had a good set, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting because like sometimes you'll hit rooms where the laughter is just continuous and strong, and then you'll get rooms where you get like a quick laugh and then they settle in to listen again. Or
Yeah.
they're just smiling the whole
Yeah.
time, and then there's like your bar show where they're just like
Yeah.
they're caring about their conversation and you're just doing comedy over there, you
Oh
know.
yeah. And they're listening to it and enjoying it, but they're more so chatting with their buddies because they decide to meet there after work to hang out, not to listen to you. But
Mhm.
it's interesting because after those shows, they might still turn around like, "Hey, man, you had a good set." Like it's like really good. I didn't feel like you were listening.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
heard 30 seconds and you were great for that 30 seconds.
yeah, loved that 30 seconds. I've learned with those bar shows, the trick is you dial in to like the people in the front row that actually came to listen. You usually have like a few tables at the very, and those become your best friends, and you perform to them confidently, loudly. You're watching their good reactions, just giving you energy to keep going. And then before you know it, the people in the back are also like listening, they're getting into it. maybe I did a show in Macon, Georgia once. It was at a arcade bar. It was so it was your standard dive bar feeling, but with a whole arcade in the back and all the noise that comes with that. And
Mhm.
and when I had to do like 45 minutes, and I was like, this is gonna be the longest 45 minutes of my life. But when I got up there, I noticed there was a few tables at the beginning in the front that were like really into it. And so those became like my audience. Like I really was trying to entertain them. But that was going so well that before I knew it, it still was loud as all get out in the back. But people were like leaving the games to stand and like listen and stuff like that. And I couldn't really, I kind of noticed them towards the end of my set, but I didn't really notice them for a lot. But yeah, so it's just you learn little things like that.
The awkward part about bombing in an arcade bar is if it's quiet enough, you can hear finish him in the background.
Absolutely, yeah. Game over. You're like, I know.
Drew, I'm gonna let you go
Yeah.
because I think my internet's getting spotty, but also I don't want to take up too much of your time. Can you let
Well,
people
this
know
was
where
absolutely
to find you,
fantastic.
where to follow you?
Absolutely.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
and I should
Thank
say
you.
again,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
you know it's oh sorry, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
it's funny. I feel like there's a disconnect now. But I will say thank you. This has been absolutely amazing, and this is a great podcast. I love what you're doing. Love that you're part of the Clean Comedy Collective. Where people can follow me, Drew Davis Comedy on your favorite social media. My favorite's Instagram. DrewDavis.com, excuse me, DrewDavisComedy.com is where you can see all my shows and find some videos. I'm on YouTube. I'm on everything. When you go follow me, you'll see that I have a podcast. You'll also see links to the Clean Comedy Collective. Just check out all that stuff. And if you're a comedian that works clean, consider sending us an application. We'd love to add you to our network. And yeah, that's basically it. So
Awesome. Thank you for coming on. This is like our first time like officially meeting, so not even officially meeting, but
yeah,
virtually. And yeah, man, this is
yeah.
a really cool conversation. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, and I love what you're doing, and look forward to connecting more, and maybe even doing a show in IRL at the same time in the same place next to each other.
IRL, not URL.
Yes, that's right. So
All right. Likeable was filmed and recorded with Radio Free Ryan Cliff. Thank you to Jen Hamoud and Matthew Rosenberg, our producers. And thank you to the Epicurean, which hosts us for each and every episode, unless we're on Zoom. So come in and stop and shop and catch us on the air. Likeable is a comedy-based podcast where experts in absolutely nothing. It should not be taken seriously. Consider this your daily dose of questionable wisdom and guaranteed hilarity. We hope. Proceed with caution and a healthy dose of skepticism. Drew Davis, thank you so much.
so much. You have a great rest of the day.
Oh, you too. I'm going to stop recording.
Yeah, you got jokes, yeah, you're insightful.